Hey guys, welcome back to another video here. Now in this video, we're going to be covering a topic that we have not yet covered on this channel. That is going to be brushed motors. I had to actually practice saying that since I've said brushless so many times. And nickel metal hydride battery packs. Do they still have a purpose in RC today? And if so, what kind of features do you get out of these brush systems and nickel metal hydride battery packs? For today's video, I have two examples of brush systems that came in my ready-to-run vehicles. We're going to take a look at both of them. Let's dive right into that and look at our first example. This here, you've seen it on the channel before. We've offered these 3D printed wheels that you can print yourself for free at home on your Latrax Prerunner. This is the Latrax Prerunner. It contains a brush motor of a 370 size classification. That classification is really going to tie in with the size of the motor. The size of a 370 size motor is going to be somewhere in around that 24 millimeter diameter by about a 30 or so millimeter length. And that's going to be your typical 370 size class. And of course, that's going to be married up to your brush speed control. It's important that you have the brush motor matching with a brush speed control. A brushless speed control will not be able to control a brushed motor unless it has that technology in it. And of course, that's going to be the older technology. Now I have another example here, and this does come from a Traxxas vehicle. This comes from the Traxxas Summit. This is a much larger brush system. This here is the Traxxas motor. It's a 775 class motor. Now classes for brush motors typically will range from the 130 size, which is quite small, all the way up to about an 800 size. You will typically see a lot of common sizes right in that window. That doesn't say that there's any motors outside of that range. There are, but for the most common applications, that's the size range that you're going to see. This one being nearly at the very top of the classification at 775. This motor will be about 500 to 600 watts of continuous power. If you water cool the motor, you will be able to push it upwards to that 700 watt mark, especially if you get one that contains all your bearings. Now, what's interesting about these brushed motors that we have in both of these applications is you will typically find them in a lot of different applications outside of radio controlled. In fact, I've taken my drill apart just to show you the motor that has been inside of that. This is the motor that's inside the drill, and it is exactly the same 775 classification. You can pull just about the same amount of power from this inside your drill. Now, any drill out there that is of a standard size and it's not marked as a brushless drill will have a motor right around this size within it. That brings us to our question for today. Are brush motors still a good option for RC in this day and age? Well, the simple answer is absolutely. Brush motors are definitely something that is still good for today. Let's understand why. Well, there's two primary reasons as to why a brush motor is actually good in today's day and age. And that is because a lot of them, like we've talked about, can be used in other applications. These motors are built and made in a much higher volume. What does that do for us? Well, it drives the volume up and lowers our price. This means lower the price of our motors. That is by far the number one reason why a brush motor is still viable today. Now there's another reason, and it's more specific to the Traxxas system here from the Summit. There's a good reason why brush motors also works very well there, and that's because there is no censored versus sensorless option for brush motors. All of them almost act like a censored system. What does that mean for our Traxxas Summit? Well, it means for the Summit that our motor is not going to have any sort of synchronization issues from 0 RPM. As soon as we apply power to the motor from 0 RPM, we're going to be able to climb that rock as slow as we can possibly get this motor to rotate. And that is very beneficial and a big feature for brush motors to be on something like a Traxxas Summit. If you had a brushless, sensorless motor in its place, it would be very difficult to scale those rocks, climb those rocks with ease. Now, the biggest thing about both of these power systems is they do apply a great amount of power for each one of those applications. You certainly do not need to enter the hobby and get something that is quicker than this specific Latrax vehicle for indoor use. This thing absolutely flies with the stock power system. And same with the Traxxas Summit. This stock system for the Traxxas Summit provides an ample amount of power to run that vehicle in all kinds of environments, whether you want to go fast with it down a roadway, or if you want to go take it to the off-road and start climbing rocks. It's got tons of power to do any of those things. So really, it doesn't come down to performance that would rule out this brush motor. They are definitely selected for their application to hit all of those marks that we've talked about. Now, the next thing that I'd like to talk about is moving towards battery packs. This is the battery pack that you would find in that Latrax vehicle. It comes with a Latrax nickel metal hydride battery pack that operates at 7.2 volts, which means it is a 6-cell nickel metal hydride battery pack. And the Traxxas Summit operates off of 2 of these specific packs that are made up of 7 cells each, and each of these is going to provide 8.4 volts, giving us a grand total of 16.8 volts. Now, when it comes to nickel metal hydride battery packs, I cannot make the same comparison here that I just did with brushed motors. Brushed motors definitely have a place. It is very hard to defend the nickel metal hydride battery pack. I don't know if manufacturers get a great deal on these battery packs, but when it comes to you and I, the end user, there's not much of a difference between a great quality nickel metal hydride battery pack, typically like your IB cells, versus your lithium polymer battery pack. The lithium polymer battery pack is going to destroy this. It's not even going to be a fair comparison in all sorts of different areas, whether it's weight, performance, power output, voltage sag, all these different things. The nickel metal hydride battery pack is just not going to be able to keep up. In fact, at a 4 amp load, I had an old lithium polymer battery pack that would outperform this just on that simple test. And it was a 14.8 volt battery pack compared up with 2 of these in series at 16.8. At a 4 amp load, I get more voltage from that lithium polymer battery pack. What does that mean about nickel metal hydride battery packs for us in RC? Well, it does mean a couple things. The battery packs that do come with our applications, if we buy them ready to run, that's fine. They do have enough power to go ahead and operate those vehicles. Even the ones that I showed you today, nickel metal hydride battery packs are used in both those vehicles and they do work. However, what it does mean is if that power system fails because of a battery pack and I have to replace one of these battery packs, I am not going to be replacing this battery pack with a nickel metal hydride battery pack. I'm 100% going to get rid of these things and move on to lithium polymer. It's just not worth it to go and buy a nickel metal hydride battery pack in 2020, which means forever. Now, what I do have to caution you on is replacing the nickel metal hydride battery pack in these Latrax vehicles is going to overwhelm the brush motor. If you go ahead and swap from a 7.2 volt battery pack to the 7.4 volt lithium polymer battery pack, it's not the 0.2 volts that makes the difference. The difference comes from the voltage under load, and that is going to overwhelm and overheat this motor. If you do go ahead and make that swap, make sure you're paying attention to the temperatures of your motors as well as the speed controls in those types of applications. If everything is okay, then you're good to go. Well, that pretty well concludes the video today. Thanks a lot for asking those questions about brush motors and nickel metal hydride battery packs in our radio control vehicles today. Like the video if you do, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that I can see you in that next video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next Monday.